First people I absolutely have to thank, David Lord, standing right there, the president of the Alexandria Bar Association and senior assistant Commonwealth's attorney working under the great Brian Porter, who is also here, Commonwealth's attorney. David and his partner Greg have invited us into their home. Greg Parks is on the ABC. He couldn't be on the invitation because of the Hatch Act. We've been very, very careful about this. But thank you, David and Greg, for having us on home. I should probably know, I said Brian Porter was here. I saw Eileen Phil, he's right there, Commonwealth's attorney. Eileen Philicorn, of course. Eileen Philicorn, of course, is my fellow delegate there in the General Assembly. We have Libby Garvey from the Arlington County Board. I know Gene Rossi is running for Lieutenant Governor, President of Alexandria. Is there anyone else who's elected or running for anything that I have neglected to mention? I'm not trying to exclude anyone here. I just want to make sure that I've mentioned everyone. Thank you everyone for being here. I want to talk just before, I'm going to talk at the end about Virginia and where we're going from here and what I'm doing. Before then, I think we all have to remember, of course, what happened 15 years ago today. And I wanted to share a little bit of where I was, mostly because I think every single person in this room remembers where you were 15 years ago today. I remember 15 years ago today thinking, I'm going to remember this day forever. I was too young to remember November 22nd, 1963, when John F. Kennedy was shot, but September 11th, 2001 is like that day. I was working in the Rayburn House office building at the time. I was legislative counsel to Congressman Barney Frank. I got there a little bit before 9. We had to be in the office by 9. I was down in the parking garage, and one of my coworkers said to me that a plane had hit the World Trade Center. I said, what? And we rushed upstairs to watch TV to find out what it was, and we discussed, did the plane lose power? You know, how did it hit the World Trade Center? Turned on the TV, saw the horror, and I immediately went and informed my boss, Barney Frank, what was going on. And then, live on television, I saw, as many of you did, the second plane hit the second tower. And immediately then I knew, as most of you knew, all of us knew, it was a terrorist attack. I went again to tell Barney what happened. Then, a few minutes later, heard the Pentagon had been hit. My colleague in the office said, I'm out of here. And he was the smartest one. He ran out of the office as soon as he saw the Pentagon. I said, not me, I stayed. I felt guilty. I'm like, I'm like, do work? How do... But then, of course, I watched in horror when the first building of the World Trade Center ceased to exist and collapsed. And that overwhelming shock, most of us saw it on TV, that building ceased to exist. And you know that a lot of people are dying in there. And a few minutes later, we got a knock on the door of our building, the Rayburn House office building. It was someone in Martin Frost's office, Democrat from Texas, congressman who was next door to us. And he knocked on the door and he said, the Republicans have deserted the building! The Republicans have deserted the building! Get out now! And we're like, what? And it turned out the Republicans had knocked on all their doors, but no one had knocked on our doors. Yeah, there was no alarm system, none of that. I mean, there was an alarm system, it wasn't run. The only reason we got out was because Martin Frost staffer told us the Republicans had deserted the building. Anyway, we went, I remember being stuck under a bridge, long story, but I do remember driving past the Pentagon, watching the smoke as I drove, 14th Street Bridge down to the GW Parkway. All of us have our own individual stories. Just that day, just the brave firefighters working so hard, many rushing upstairs to their deaths to save people's lives. And let's not forget the Pentagon. I mean, right here in Arlington, right there, so many people working very hard, giving their lives for their country, and of course, Jenksville, Pennsylvania. And I just, before we begin and talk about Virginia and politics and everything, it's very important, I think we all agree, to remember that day and to think about any kind of victims of terrorism, not just in the United States, but all over the world. And I think that these two elected officials, these great people by my side, I know are working hard in Virginia and in the federal government to do our best to try to prevent anything like that from ever happening again. So I just wanted to commemorate September 11th. And now I want to introduce these two people, and then they can turn around and introduce me. It's kind of like